Hey everybody, it's Thomas with Sure Shot Photography, and I want to wish you a good Sunday morning and welcome you to the first installment of This Is How I See It. Now, last week the video was well over an hour long, and this week I'm going to try to approach it differently. Going to give everybody a more detailed overview of what this show, what this production will actually entail. So I'm going to cover several subjects briefly, a couple minutes each one. And then as we progress, the weeks go on, the months go on, I'll be doing individual segments returning to each one of those topics. This way, you get a better feel of what you're going to be seeing. Now, I don't pull any punches, there's no surprises, there's no fancy magician's work here. Shooting it from the hip. More than likely there won't be any type of script, maybe an outline for me to follow so I stay on track. But other than that, it's just good old-fashioned fun. So I do appreciate you joining me today, and thanks for all your support once again. So without further ado, let's get started. Journalism. The activity or profession of writing for newspapers, magazines, or news websites, or preparing news to be broadcast. Now, that's the textbook definition of journalism, and what that really covers these days, as opposed to 60 years ago, is all types of media that we ingest, and 90% of the time we are actually doing it with our phone these days. Now, here's a couple things that I want you to remember. Everybody is driven by money. We live in a capitalist society, so all your news networks, cable news networks, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, take your pick, Facebook, Twitter, they are all driven by revenue, and these revenues come in the form of advertisements that they need to sell. Now, of course, the more outrageous, the more in-depth, the more graphic a story is, the more people are going to be glued to their phone or their TV. And because of that, these corporations can drive up the cost of the ad space. Now, what does this mean in today's world? Well, 60, 70 years ago, you had your three major networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS, and you had a variety of different printed material. Time Life magazine, the New York Post, the New York Times, Los Angeles Times. Here in Arizona, it was the Gazette and the Republic. There wasn't a whole lot of competition back then. So those advertising dollars, were spread out amongst, a select few. These days, multimedia, web-based media is also major media when it comes to our news. Recent surveys show that a majority of people, unfortunately, get their news from Facebook. Now, all these traditional news outlets need to compete with web-based outlets for those advertising dollars. So they're going to do whatever it takes to get you to read their story. Now, this poses several problems. False narratives, what some people will call fake news. It also forces journalists, broadcasters to lead out before they have accurate information. And that's dangerous. That's very dangerous, because once you've said it and put it out there, especially in today's consumable society, no one cares about the retraction, okay? And that retraction is never as big as the headline. A lot of issues. I have a lot of issues with this subject, and we would definitely will revisit this and cover it more in depth, because I do photojournalism, and I take it very personally when I see other journalists, other broadcasters lower themselves below what I consider ethical, okay? I would never doctor a photo, I would never write a false narrative, and again, if I'm going to deliver a story that's based in opinion, I'll let everybody know, hey, this is my opinion, this is how I feel. I feel, and I've said this before to a couple people, that my job is to observe and report without passion or prejudice. I need to do my best to maintain neutrality. That's the only way I can deliver a story accurately. Now, do we write with passion? Do we broadcast with emotion? Absolutely. But there's a fine line. There's a fine line when you start to take those facts and warp them and shift them into your own opinion and to your own ends. So keep that in mind as we move forward. This will definitely be a topic that's going to be a multi-parter, because there's so much to discuss and cover just in this one subject. So, media. What does it mean today, and and where is it taking us tomorrow? Crime and punishment. Now, it doesn't take a brain surgeon, a rocket scientist, even an archaeologist to realize that our judiciary is broken. It is broken, in my opinion, beyond repair. Now, maybe half a century ago, we could have done something to prevent this. We chose not to. We have groups of advocates that actually advocate stronger for perpetrators of crimes, okay, than they do the actual victims of crimes. And I'm not gonna lie, that's fucked up. I'm not sure what the malfunction of these individuals is, but my only guess is they're out hugging a tree someplace. That's wrong. In any crime, the victim should come first. And what we need to do as a society is to realize that our society is not judged by the way we take care of our criminals. That's actually an inaccurate quote. And when we come back to this segment of crime and punishment, I will tell you about the origins of that and why it is wrong. Our society should be, considered civil for a lot of different reasons. One of them, how we take care of our victims. Now, if someone has committed a crime, they need to be punished, and based on the horrific nature of that crime, that should dictate the severity. I am for the death penalty. I am pro capital punishment. I actually feel capital punishment should be expanded to encompass all predicate felons, all child molesters, all rapists, murderers, kidnappers, and to some extent, drunk drivers. Because if you're a drunk driver and you've had your third dewey and you're still driving without a license and you slam into a sedan and kill a family of 4, I'm sorry, my friend, your time's up. Now, one of the major issues is we interject morality, not even just morality, but our own morality when it comes to the inequities or the punishments that are handed out in our penal system. And that's wrong as well. We need to start taking a look at this in a very logical, critical way if we're going to fix it and move forward. Until then, it's just going to keep breaking down, worse and worse and worse. And I don't want to hear, oh my gosh, there's more of this demographic in prison, more of that demographic in prison, and that's because they came from a poor neighborhood, bullshit. All of us make our own choices, and we need to live with the consequences of those choices. That's called management of consequence, okay? If you choose to break the law, be prepared to be punished. And I don't want to hear bullshit from somebody else going that I'm being prejudiced because they're white, they're black, they're poor, they're Mexican, they're Asian, they're gay, they're transgender, whatever. I can give 2 shits and a fuck what you are. If you're a criminal, you need to be punished. So this is definitely something I will get fired up over, among other things. And it's something that will more than likely be in 2-3 parts as well. So keep that in mind, crime and punishment. And I'm not talking about the classic novel. All right, so now let's keep it a little lighthearted. If anybody remembers the video that I posted, 2 weeks ago, they will remember I said we were going to talk about a variety of subjects. Now, some of those subjects, like I said, will also include movie reviews, tech reviews, product reviews, basically a review on, whatever I feel like reviewing at the time. We're a fickle bunch. We go to a movie, we don't, it doesn't meet our expectations for whatever reason, we bash it. We go to a restaurant, we eat, and we complain that the portions were too small, even though it was enough for 2 people. Our operating system doesn't work as fast as it did 6 months ago, but we haven't taken time to think, well, we've just downloaded a shit ton of apps, all kinds of different stuffs. Or how, what the heck is the name of that song? 5 Finger Death Punch. I hate those faggots. Are you kidding me? Come up with something other than a cover song, please. And if you're gonna do another cover song, try not to fuck it up, okay? Because there's people spinning in their graves. Or you're gonna force somebody into friggin' relapse again because you've slaughtered it, just completely killed it in a negative way. But anyway, so things like that. So I want everybody to know that yes, we're going to talk about a lot of serious topics going forward, but we are also going to keep it lighthearted at times. What's life without a little humor? What's life without enjoying ourselves? Most of us, not all of us, work 40-hour work week. We work hard. We want to enjoy ourselves. And for the other people that I know, jobs are different. You might work from home. You might be able to sit at a computer just wearing a t-shirt and boxer shorts or sweatpants and slippers that, look like bear claw feet or something like that. But whatever the case may be, whatever your situation is, just know that we're going to try to have fun with this stuff. There might be some singing, there might be some dancing. I might even throw a couple of hidden movie lines in, and if someone can guess what movie that's from, I don't know, Gold Star, cookie, the $5 gift card from Starbucks or something. Because I'm so Halle, I don't even know I'm Halle. All right, so we've already talked about a couple different subjects, and now there's going to be another one that will be a reoccurring theme going forward, because this is actually a project I'm going to work on separately from This Is How I See It. And that's about PTSD. Now, for people who know me and they know what I've been through, it's there. It's there every day, good days, bad days. And it's not just for me. All our men and women who are first responders, law enforcement, and military suffer from PTSD in one form or another. I take it very personally when people want to lead the charge for other groups that, I'll be quite honest, I consider less than. I don't want California to set aside $35 million for a legal fund for illegal immigrants, illegal aliens. I certainly don't want them to set aside another $45 million for DACA. Take that combined money and why don't you give it to the vets? Why don't you provide your law enforcement and your first responders with quality trauma therapy instead of farming it off to the lowest bidder to get the contract? That's part of one of the many things that I feel is causing issues within our country. We like to back the wrong play, and we tend to choose the wrong side, partly because of pressure from the media, partly because we're fed bad information on a daily basis. So there's a lot of things that need to change. But when it comes to the care of our first responders, our law enforcement professionals, and our military, I take that very personally, very seriously, and it's something that I want to be an intricate part of and changing on the way we treat that. So going forward, we'll definitely do an entire series dedicated to PTSD and what we need to do on a local, state, and federal level to change the mindset and the culture of how we're treated, okay, because we're suffering with PTSD, and what also needs to change to make sure that we get adequate, I'm talking quality, not even just adequate, but quality trauma therapy for our issues. So keep that in mind moving forward. Mediocrity. Now, it's a very big word, and I'm willing to bet there's a lot of people that really don't know what it means, and that's tragic in and of itself and a different topic for another day. But our country is infested with mediocrity. Now, that's our faults. We've let it happen. Over the last half century, we have, little by little, let people become mediocre, less than mediocre. Hell, today, to be mediocre, you're a fucking rock star. Are you kidding me? People are too quick to accept less than quality, less than superior quality, and call it good. It's our faults. We write at a 6th, 7th, 8th grade level just so people can consume that more easily. Our education system's a joke. Oh my God, when did it start? 18 years ago, 20 years ago, where every kid got a trophy for participating, including the championship team that worked their asses off to be champions? That's wrong, okay? We have essentially two generations, the millennials and the younger kids, that feel it's okay to be mediocre. And the problem is the culture that we've created is now we have some adults that feel it's okay to be mediocre. And sad enough to say, those are my people, the Gen Xers, okay? I'm sorry. We're the badasses of the group. Baby boomers are old, they're retired, they're enjoying their Mai Tais and margaritas. It's up to us, the Gen Xers, to propel our society into the coming decades. But it's not going to happen if we continue to accept mediocrity. It's not okay. If someone's not doing their job right and they can't do their job right, they need to be fired. Find someone who's willing to, okay? I don't care what it is. Stop making excuses for substandard work or product for that matter. So we're going to have a really good discussion when we actually come back to it, when we talk about it in depth. So keep that in mind. Mediocrity. It helps nobody and hurts everybody. All right, so many moons ago, our education system was renowned the world over, okay? And, years turn into decades, turn into half a century, turns into a century, and we are where we're at now. Our education system is a joke. Nationwide, we have no acceptable standards, what I would consider acceptable standards. We no longer challenge our children to learn and think critically, and we treat our educators like dogs, all right? They're underpaid, they don't get the materials that they need, and the support they have in the form of administration is weak. And that's on a good day, because when little Johnny and Jenny is acting like a bastard, okay, and they call the parent and say, hey, your kid's a fuck up, they're dumb as a box of rocks, you need to do something, the parent goes to the administration and the teacher's the one that gets reprimanded. And now little Johnny and Jenny become a teenager, get knocked up, get on welfare, and my tax dollars are paying for them to go shop at Walmart. Got to do something to change that, folks. Are you kidding me? Every generation, we fall further and further behind in the competitive market globally. It's no longer the state you live in. It's no longer the country you live in. We need to think globally, because everything that happens in those far-off lands eventually affects us, and that's what we need to keep in mind. We need to prepare our children to compete globally on the stage of education, all right? Letting them go forward in the current cognitive state that they're in is a crime. And I actually feel it should be, a felony for the parent to do that to their child, and should be considered some form of child abuse, because you are not doing your child any service by letting them go forward without proper education. So keep that in mind. It's a problem that has a lot of different sides to it. There's a lot of areas that we can start to fix this, and we're going to discuss that in length in the coming weeks. Just got paid Friday night, money in my pocket, feeling right. Okay, yeah, no. I'm sorry, guys. Got a little carried away there. We're at the end of this week's segment, and that's a good thing. We've talked about a lot of different subjects, and there's so much more for us to discuss. Science, technology, bioethics, the biomedical field, should euthanasia be legalized for someone who's terminally ill, the Constitution, First Amendment, Second Amendment, pro-life, pro-choice, the list is endless. And that's where you actually get to, take part in this. So, as always, whether, the post is here on YouTube or it's something that I put on Facebook, I want you to comment. Let me know what you thought about today's episode and show. Make some suggestions. What are some talking points that you would like me to discuss in coming shows? That's how we actually establish critical communication with one another. I find it very sad that over the last, maybe decade or two, that we have put in more effort to work against one another than we do to work with one another. And that has to change. Moving forward, if we're going to continue to grow and advance socially and culturally, that has to change. And, that could be one of the topics that we discuss too in the coming weeks. So I just want to thank everybody for the support. Don't be shy. Try to be articulate as you can. If you're humorous and you want to leave a funny comment, that's awesome too. I'll try not to dance in coming episodes. I know that's a little scary. It's an epidemic that's sweeping the internet. Middle-aged white men thinking that they have rhythm when they really don't. It's a whole discussion that we can have. have on that. Anyways, guys, as always, like and share this video. Share it with your neighbor. Share it with the hooker on Broadway. Share it with the Pope if you're friends with him on Facebook, you know. Let's get this out to everybody. Let's start making a difference. Let's be the ones who, you know, when people say, hey, how did that get started? Let's be that epicenter, okay? As always, be kind to yourself and others, and God bless. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.